In the last video, we saw Zhang Zi or Rakshasa had entered the third floor of the demon territory after taking care of the thugs on floor 2. There was also the case where he finds that his sister was being harassed by some rich men, but he teaches them a lesson and earns a good reputation with the owner of the most prestigious club in the city. But on the third floor, he has to fight goblins that always appear in teams of 2, a goblin warrior and a goblin stone pelter. He finds that the goblins were much more intelligent than the previous monsters and could strategize and retreat. But he takes the teams of goblins one at a time by stopping the running goblins with the help of his poison spider. Zhang Zi kills a lot of goblins this way and adds them to his summoning array. With that, he thinks that he is ready to face the boss. He sees that a shady man in a purple robe, who claims that he was an S-rank expert, was gathering newcomers to clear the floor boss, the Goblin King, with him. He approaches Zhang Zi, who refuses his offer. Later, it turns out that the man was an assassin named Kiss of Death, and he lured the innocent newcomers to their death and stole whatever they had on them. Zhang Zi enters the boss room and starts fighting the Goblin King, but he is forced back due to the ruthlessness of the boss. The problem aggravates when Kiss of Death comes out of hiding and stabs Zhang Zi, but he uses his poison spider's web to stop the motion of the assassin, who is then killed by the Goblin King. After that, Zhang Zi defeats the Goblin King in a tough fight. But before he can go to the fourth floor, he is surrounded by the inspection team of the Demon Territory Management Bureau, who suspect him of being the one who killed the newcomers. But natural law, the man he met on the second floor, is their chief, and he proves that Zhang Zi was not the culprit. But before they go their own ways, he warns Zhang Zi that Kiss of Death was a member of an evil organization called Dawn and that he should be careful of them. On the fourth floor, the altar is surrounded by a powerful barrier and all the hunters are inside the barrier. Outside, the members of the Bureau are standing, and they advise the hunters to not enter the floor. Zhang Zi thinks that another problem and another round of officers from the Bureau. The hunters are impatient and demand the right to enter the fourth floor. They say that the Demon Territory Management Bureau was taking undue advantage of their position and stopping the hunters from entering it. It was unfair and everyone starts protesting. Zhang Zi is watching them and is still at a loss about what was going on in the fourth floor. The officers from the Bureau tell the hunters that their intentions were never to bully or intimidate the hunters, and they were doing everything for their safety. The people from the Bureau inform the hunters that a death territory had suddenly opened up on the fourth floor. That was a rare phenomenon most hunters did not know about. The officer in charge tells the hunters everything he was allowed to tell them about this new place. It was yet another dimension within the demon territory, and the monsters were extraordinarily strong. All the hunters that went there found it quite hard to survive in those conditions. Thus, proper research about the death territory had not been conducted yet. It appeared randomly on any floor without warning. The protesters do not believe what the officers are saying and try to force their way out. The officer in charge tells the hunters that the monsters on the fourth floor had all mutated and now they were as strong as monsters on the 10th floor. He says that he will allow anyone who dares to enter the floor, but the person would be the only one responsible if anything bad happened. One of the hunters is quite confident that he can clear the fourth floor even if it was suddenly much more dangerous. He was one of the main people who were screaming at the officers earlier. The officer in charge lets him go while the other hunters are still calculating the right decision. Zhang Zi had also never heard the term death territory before, but he recalls that he had the invitation card to go there. It was one of the items that dropped when he killed the thugs on the lower floor. But it is decided that no one would like to go into the dangerous floor when the man who volunteered comes back. He was terribly injured and scared. He had barely managed to escape with his life and was so terrified that he could barely speak. He says that all the monsters had mutated and everyone decides that it was not worth risking their lives. The officers tell them that the fourth floor would be closed for maintenance until the death territory disperses itself. It may take some time, so they were advised to explore only the lower floors until then. Everyone leaves for home as they gossip among themselves about the new uncertain developments. Even Zhang Zi thinks that he should log out and go home now. But something is happening on the 22nd floor of the demon territory. It is like a city that has been ravaged by war and huge monsters. A swordsman is fighting a giant zombie monster alone. The monster is as big as a building and is holding a giant scythe. But the swordsman smiles on seeing it and jumps to attack it. He makes quick work of the zombie monster and kills it without anyone's support. As he goes to pick up the purple magic soul orb dropped by the monster, he receives a message. Kiss of Death was killed by Rakshasa. That was what the message said, and now the swordsman is interested in the hunter named Rakshasa. He is a member of the infamous evil organization Dawn. But then he turns his attention to the enemy in front of him. The boss of the 22nd floor is even larger than the biggest buildings in the surrounding and looks absolutely terrifying. But the swordsman confidently walks to face it. Back at home, Zhang Zi is planning to take on some other work while the fourth floor of the demon territory was off limits. He tells his sister Zhang Feng that he was going to work with the cousin of a friend named Zhang Pan. Zhang Feng tells him that she is worried because she had heard that the things her cousin did were quite dangerous. Zhang Zi tells her that he was quite strong and she should not need to worry about him. He leaves the home to meet at the rendezvous point. Zhang Pan is waiting for him at the meeting point that looks like an abandoned school or hospital. She takes him to her cousin and his team. They are inside the building and planning something. She introduces them to each other and Zhang Zi is nervous about the kind of work he is going to do. Zhang Pan's cousin Lu Kai welcomes him and says that he had heard good things about him. Zhang Zi tells him that he needed a job but he needed to know what the job was before joining him. Lu Kai tells him that they had to go to the Fallen Zone for the job. The Fallen Zones were the cities that faced severe damage from monster outbreaks and became completely unsuitable for human settlement. They were occupied by monsters and were dangerous places for even skilled hunters to be in. But there was also treasure to be discovered there. That included money, jewelry, valuable art pieces, and antiques. These art pieces and antiques attracted the attention of rich people who were willing to pay good money to obtain them. Lu Kai admits that though the money was good, the job was extremely dangerous. There were a lot of monsters, but that was not the worst of it. The National Security Bureau had banned public entry into the Fallen Zones for everyone's safety. Going there for any reason was illegal and they would be punished if they were caught. But they all needed money badly and thus had no other option but to take risks. The other members of the group are also cheerful and welcoming. There is a bulky man named Tai Gang, a cheerful man with long hair named Feng Zai, and a tough-looking bald man named Lao Ba in the group. They tell him that originally the reward would be divided equally among all the people in the team and everyone would get 300,000 yuan per mission. But this mission was a bit difficult and the rewards had been doubled to 600,000 yuan per head. Zhang Zi is really excited on hearing about the pay. He still needed some money for his sister's treatment and it was worth taking the risk. He does not waste a moment when he hears about the reward and agrees to join them. Everyone else is also delighted when they hear that the reward was doubled. Lu Kai tells Zhang Zi that their mission this time was to look for a painting from the 5 Dynasties period. He tells Zhang Zi to meet them at the Jiangdong Museum tomorrow at 4 am sharp. The next day, Zhang Zi wakes up to find his sister preparing breakfast for him. He is concerned that she was pushing herself too hard for his sake, but he is surprised to see an apple on his plate. Zhang Feng tells him that a man who had moved next door recently gifted her apples. Zhang Zi is surprised that what would a man who could afford to give away apples be doing in a location like theirs. Fresh fruit and vegetables were quite rare after the monsters had attacked, but the scarcity was getting worse with the day. Something like apples would even be considered a luxury. Zhang Zi leaves for work and tells his sister that she should not accept things casually from strangers. Even if the neighbor was a generous man, it was a little suspicious for him to gift them with fresh fruits. Zhang Zi reaches the meeting point, the Jiangdong Museum, at the agreed time. He had prepared for the dangerous mission last night by absorbing all the magic soul orbs he had. Thanks to that, his stats were much better than they were at the beginning. He sees that his strength is now at 14, and his agility is at 15. His other stats have also increased enough to make a difference. He thinks that with his increased strength and speed, he could possibly fight off any kind of monster. But still, he hopes that they did not meet any monster while searching for the painting. The cities were surrounded by tall and thick walls to protect them from monster attacks. He is surprised at seeing the city walls in person, but he spots Lu Kai and the group preparing to climb up. They have tied a rope to the top of the wall and they would use it to climb. While the other members are checking if the rope was sturdy enough, Lu Kai gives Zhang Zi a dead chicken. Zhang Zi is confused and asks what was the purpose of this. Lu Kai tells him that monsters love to eat dead bodies and they would not differentiate between humans and animals. So if he was being chased by a monster he could not fight, he should throw the chicken to them so that they would be distracted by it. Zhang Zi likes the idea and puts the chicken in his bag. The group climbs over the tall wall and then descends to the other side. But before they go down, they take a moment to see the scene of the fallen city. They could see all sorts of monsters, big and small, in the city. There were even a lot of flying monsters. Zhang Zi is shocked on seeing so many types of monsters in the city, but Lu Kai tells him not to worry. He says that since he was the friend of his cousin Zhang Pan, he would make sure that he stayed safe. As long as Zhang Zi followed his instructions and stuck close to him, he would not lose his life. The group gets down and starts walking toward its goal. The tough bald man named Lao Ba tells Lu Kai that they should not bring the boy with them again. He thinks that Zhang Zi was just an ordinary boy and he could only be a burden to them. As the leader of the group, even Lu Kai agrees with Lao Ba and says that he was thinking about it already. They reach the place where the painting is situated, but the entrance was blocked by huge boulders. Zhang Zi asks Lu Kai how would they get in when there was no entrance, but the team members are already doing their part. The long-haired man named Feng Zai is already looking for an entrance and he quickly finds it. The next turn was of Lao Ba, who steps up to the boulders. He punches the rocks and they disperse. He could create a path to the building in just one hit. Lu Kai tells Zhang Zi that Lao Ba was the strongest person in the team with 12 strength status. Zhang Zi thinks that he was at 14 strength points, which meant he was significantly stronger than the bald man. As the group goes inside, Lu Kai warns them that monsters were more likely to be found in dark corners and urges everyone to be very careful. The inside of the building is quite damaged, and as the group walks to find a door, they can spot a few skeletons too. They finally find the door behind which the painting was supposed to be and Lu Kai opens it. They were in the exhibition hall where many other valuables were stored along with the painting. The group decides to split up and search for the painting from the Five Dynasties era. The paintings are in varying conditions and some are more damaged than the others. Lukai finds a damaged painting whose title "Rafting on the Spring River" matches the painting they were looking for. But Zhang Zi has found the exact painting they were asked to find. It was titled "Gift to Prince Jun" and Lukai is happy on finding it so easily. They take the painting with them and fold it and place it in their bag. Feng Zai says that he is going to enjoy himself with this money and probably even go to the Yunding Club to meet some beautiful women. But Zhang Zi notices that they were one person short. The bulky man named Tai Gang was missing. Lukai tries to reach him through his communication device, but there is no response. Lao Ba is worried too, but he says that it was not easy for him to just disappear with a bulky physique like that. Lukai thinks that it was too risky to wait for Tai Gang in the building. He orders the group to leave immediately, and if they could not find Tai Gang on the way, they would leave him a message. As they are running out of the building, someone or something is staring at them. Zhang Zi notices it only when the monster jumps down to the same level as them. Lukai and the others are scared, but Zhang Zi has no idea what he was facing. It was a rank 2 demon, a territory monster. The monster has a giant green body that is shaped like a potato. He has 4 arms and 4 eyes. One of the extra eyes is on his forehead and the other one is in the middle of his stomach. The monster has jaws nested inside other jaws, and it looks somewhat similar to the boss monster of the 22nd floor that the member of Dawn was facing. But it is quite smaller in size as compared to the boss. Lao Ba jumps at the monster and tells the others to leave immediately. He was confident that he was strong enough to defeat the monster. But as his dagger breaks on hitting the monster, his confidence also shatters. He realizes that the monster's skin was too thick to be cut with the weapon he had. But the monster is angry at Lao Ba, and he also realizes that he messed up. The monster swings its hand at him and Lao Ba is sent across the room. The other members of the group are worried, but Lao Ba managed to get into a defensive position in time. He used his hands to block the attack of the monster, and that saved his life. But the damage to his arms was much more severe than he expected it to be. He tells Lukai that he would probably not be able to fight anymore. Zhang Zi is shocked at the strength of the monster. Lao Ba was quite strong and heavy himself, but he was slapped away like he was nothing. The monster was too fearsome. It is facing Zhang Zi and his groups and roaring loudly. They can do nothing but run away in face of the terrible foe. Zhang Zi is scared and he thinks of using the dead chicken. It was an emergency measure for times like this. He throws it at the monster as the others start to run away. Feng Zai is helping Lao Ba to move to safety somehow. But the small chicken was nothing to stall the demon. Even though he was tempted by the lure for a moment, he catches it and swallows it whole. The group is running as fast as possible, but the monster catches up to them. Feng Zai and Lao Ba are dead last, and they are going to be crushed by the claw of the monster. Feng Zai decides that he was not going to go down without a fight and pushes Lao Ba out of danger's way. He takes out his weapon, a double-barreled gun, and starts blasting it at the monster. He tells Lukai that he should run away while he stopped the monster. Feng Zai's attacks do not do much damage to the monster, but they are quite effective at keeping it at bay. The monster is shocked at the weird weapon and cannot attack Feng Zai without leaving his vital points unguarded. Lao Ba also decides that he would not run away from the monster. He says that he does not care about his life anymore and would defeat the monster, no matter what it took. While Feng Zai is shooting the monster continuously, Lao Ba takes out his final weapon, a grenade. He throws the grenade at the monster as he yells at Lukai and Zhang Zi to run out. The grenade explodes and both Lao Ba and Feng Zai were inside its range. The blast takes them out along with the monster. Zhang Zi cannot believe that they sacrificed their lives to save their friends. Lukai is the one who is pained the most by the death of his comrades. He holds back his tears, but a couple of them find their way out. He tells Zhang Zi that it was not the time to be sad, even though he is more sad than anyone else. He says that they have to run away quickly to make sure that Feng Zai and Lao Ba did not die in vain. Lukai grabs Zhang Zi's hand and starts running to the entrance they used. He is still not certain that the grenade killed the monster for sure, but once they were out of the building, they should be safe. But as they crawl out of the hole and reach outside, Lukai realizes that he spoke too soon. There is something terrible outside the building, and neither he nor Zhang Zi can believe their eyes. What is the unbelievable thing that Zhang Zi and Lukai now see? Is it another monster or a horde of monsters? Or is it something else entirely? Whatever the answer may be, it is possibly too dangerous for either of them to survive easily. Will Zhang Zi show his real power to Lukai, or would he let another man die and do nothing? Let us find out in the next video.